All right, let's get right into it. Today we're going deep on the 2020 Honda NSX, specifically looking at the European model. You
Mm.
shared a brochure with us, and it's clear this car has piqued your interest. Before we get into the details, though, let's talk about supercars. What even makes a supercar a supercar? Is it pure speed, breathtaking design, that incredible engine sound, or is it some kind of magic that brings all of that together?
It's funny you say magic. Defining a supercar is kind of like trying to grab lightning in a bottle. It's always changing depending on tech advancements, even our own expectations. But I think the 2020 NSX and Honda in general is trying to redefine what that whole supercar experience can be.
Okay, well, let's open up this brochure and see how they're doing that.
Right.
Right away, I see a new sports experience. It's a bold statement for sure,
Hmm.
and feels like a direct connection to that original 1990 NSX,
Yeah.
which, that was a game changer back in the day.
Yeah, it's more than just a tagline, though. It's baked into the DNA of this car. The brochure actually quotes Michelle Christensen. She's the exterior design project leader, and she says the design has a purity and function-inspired form. So everything about the look of this car is meant to add to that unique driving experience.
It's not just about looking cool, then. It's about baking performance into the design itself.
Yeah.
And then there's this quote from Soichiro Honda himself. It says, "The value of life can be measured by how many times your soul has been deeply stirred." I mean, that's not something you expect to see in a car brochure. It sets the bar pretty high, don't you think?
Absolutely. It suggests the NSX is about more than just speed. It's about connecting with the driver on a deeper level, an emotional level,
Yeah.
even creating an experience that's more than just the mechanics of it.
Now, I gotta admit, I get pretty excited about a powerful engine. And the NSX is where things get really interesting. It's a hybrid. We're talking a twin-turbocharged 3.5-liter V6 working with not one, not two, but three electric motors. That's a lot of power under the hood.
It is a pretty amazing piece of engineering, yeah? We're talking a combined output of 581 PS and 645 nanometers of torque. So that translates to some serious acceleration. But it's not just raw power. The 9-speed dual-clutch transmission is designed to give you this smooth, instantaneous power delivery. You hit the gas and you get that immediate surge of acceleration. It's that feeling of being totally connected to how responsive the car is.
And they've taken that connection idea even further with the driving modes.
Right?
You've got Quiet Sport, Sport Plus, and Track. It's more than just adjusting the performance, though. It's like the NSX has multiple personalities.
Exactly. Imagine cruising through your neighborhood in quiet mode. It's just you and that subtle hum of the electric motors. Super peaceful. But then you hit some open road switch to sport, and the V6 roars to life working seamlessly with the electric motors. It's a completely different beast.
Okay, but what about when you really want to push it? What happens in Sport Plus mode?
Sport Plus is where the NSX really sharpens its claws. Everything is optimized for pure performance. You get even more aggressive throttle response. The suspension stiffens up and the steering gets super precise.
So you're basically unleashing the full potential of the car. And then there's Track mode. That must be something else.
Track mode is where the NSX turns into this precision instrument. It's honed for taking corners at speed, hitting those blistering lap times. Every system in the car works in perfect harmony to get the absolute most out of the car on the track.
That's wild. But it makes me think about the driver in all of this. How do you even keep up with a car that can change its personality like that?
Well, that's where the driver-focused cockpit comes in, the interwoven dynamic design philosophy.
Okay, that sounds fancy, but break it down. What does that actually mean for the person behind the wheel?
Basically, it means everything inside is designed to create a connection between you and the car. Remember Michael Cow? He's the interior project leader. He talks about how form follows function in the NSX. It's about making a space that's intuitive, easy to use, looks amazing, and adds to that driving experience.
So they didn't just throw in some fancy seats and call it a day. It's about an environment where the driver can really focus on driving. Does the brochure give any specifics, like what features they actually use to do that?
Yeah, for sure. They point out things like the digital instrument cluster. It's right in your line of sight, so you can see your speed, RPM, all the important stuff without taking your eyes off the road. And those sport seats, they're sculpted to give you support when you're really pushing the car but still comfy for a long drive. It's that balance of luxury and performance that's really signature NSX.
And they mentioned this advanced sports package and how the powertrain components are placed to balance the weight. I'm guessing that's more than just a nice to have. It must
Yeah.
really affect how it handles.
Oh, absolutely. Weight distribution is key for how a car moves, how quickly it responds. By putting the engine in the middle and fine-tuning where everything else goes, they've made a car that feels perfectly balanced, like a dancer, moving with grace and precision.
Speaking of precision, we talked about the NSX's handling earlier, but for those of us who aren't gearheads, can you explain what makes this car so fun to drive? They keep saying ultra-rigid chassis and fully independent suspension and mid-engine layout. What does all that mean when you're actually on the road?
So picture this. You're going through a bunch of twisty turns. With the NSX's super rigid chassis, there's not much body roll. The car stays flat and stable. And that fully independent suspension means each wheel reacts to the road on its own, giving you crazy grip and control. And because the engine's right behind you, the weight's perfectly balanced, making it super agile. Turns on a dime, basically.
So it's not just about going fast in a straight line. It's about that connection to the road, that feeling of confidence when you push it to the limit. That's what separates a true driver's car from the rest. It's like they engineered the thrill into every single curve.
You know, Ted Klaus, the chief engineer, actually says it perfectly. He says driving the NSX is like finding your perfect dance partner. It's that feeling of harmony between you and the machine moving as one.
I love that. It really gets at that emotional side of driving a car like this. It's not just about specs and numbers. It's about the experience, how it makes you feel.
Exactly. And while the NSX delivers on that feeling, let's not forget how good it looks. We talked about the colors, but it's more than that. It's those sleek lines, the way light hits the curves. It's definitely a head turner.
I noticed they highlighted those lines in the brochure, almost like they were shaped by the wind itself. But I'm guessing all those curves serve a purpose. It's not just about looking good, right?
Oh, you're absolutely right. Form and function are one and the same with the NSX. Every curve, every intake, every vent is there to optimize airflow, improve performance. Take those sleek lines you mentioned. They help reduce drag and keep the car stable at high speed. And those air intakes, they're carefully placed to channel air to the engine and brakes, keeping everything cool, even when you're pushing it hard.
So it's a beautiful car that's also incredibly functional. They even have those carbon fiber packages, which I'm assuming don't just look cool, but actually make the car lighter.
Exactly. The carbon fiber adds a sporty look to the NSX, for sure. But it also helps performance by reducing weight, which improves handling and acceleration. It's all about pushing the limits, you know?
We've covered so much here, from the NSX's powertrain and handling to its design. But as we keep digging into it, I keep coming back to this question. Who did Honda picture as the ideal driver for this car?
It's a good question. They've shown us the personality, the capabilities, the design philosophy, but they kind of leave it up to us to imagine who would be drawn to this mix of performance tech and emotion. Like they're inviting us to fill in the blanks.
So if you had to paint a portrait of that ideal NSX driver, what would they be like? What would make them choose this car over any other?
I think the ideal NSX driver is someone who appreciates the finer things. Someone who looks for experiences that are both exciting and refined. They like pushing limits, but they also value control precision. They're drawn to the NSX's unique blend of cutting-edge technology and timeless design. They're not just looking for a car, they're looking for a partner in crime.
I can see that. It's someone who knows that true luxury isn't about showing off. It's about the quality of the experience. They want that thrill of driving, but they also appreciate the artistry and engineering that goes into a machine like this.
Precisely. It's not just about buying a car. It's about investing in an experience, a feeling, a connection that's deeper than just the material stuff. They understand that driving the NSX makes a statement, not just about their style, but about their appreciation for innovation and craftsmanship.
It's like joining an exclusive club, a community of drivers who share a passion for pushing limits. And I think Honda created that intentionally with the NSX. They've made a car that's not just meant to be driven, but to be shared, to be talked about, to be celebrated.
You're right. It's bigger than the car itself. It's about the culture around it, the shared passion for performance design innovation. It's about connecting with people who get it, who appreciate what goes into crafting a machine like the NSX.
So while the brochure doesn't actually say who the perfect NSX driver is, I think we're getting a pretty good idea. They're sophisticated, they're passionate, they're adventurous. They're not afraid to stand out, and they value experiences that are both thrilling and meaningful. They're looking for a car that reflects their own values.
And the NSX delivers on all those fronts. It's a car that's both exhilarating and refined, powerful and precise, innovative and timeless. It speaks to your heart as much as your head.
You know, as we're talking about this ideal NSX driver, it's making me think about something we haven't really touched on yet. The sound.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked about performance and design, even that emotional connection. But the sound is such a huge part of the experience of driving a car like this.
Especially with a hybrid powertrain. I mean, you've got that classic V6 growl, but then you've also got the futuristic hum of the electric motors. How did they bring those two worlds together? Did the brochure say anything specific about the NSX's sound?
They didn't go into too much detail, but they did talk about how the NSX is designed to stir the soul, how it creates this exhilarating experience that's more than just mechanics. And I think it's safe to assume the sound is a big part of that.
It's probably unlike anything else out there. It's like a carefully orchestrated symphony tuned to enhance the driving experience. I'm imagining this subtle, futuristic hum in quiet mode, then a confident, throaty growl in sport. And finally, when you're in track mode, it's probably this full-on roar, like some kind of beast unleashed.
That's a great way to put it. It's like the car is talking to you through sound, letting you know exactly what it's capable of. The sound becomes part of the experience. I got to hear this. We have to search for some videos online. Maybe some recordings from the track.
You should. It's hard to describe the feeling you get from a supercar like the NSX. Sometimes words just don't do it justice.
So we're wrapping up our deep dive here. We've looked at the philosophy, the tech, the design, even imagined what it feels like to drive it. What's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from all this?
I hope they come away with a sense of wonder and excitement. I hope they realize that the 2020 Honda NSX is more than just a car. It's a statement about what's possible when you mix passion, innovation, and this desire for driving perfection.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Mm.
It's a car that makes you dream of open roads and endless possibilities. And for anyone listening who's ever wanted something extraordinary, something that pushes the limits, the NSX shows you what can be achieved.
And even though this deep dive has given you a good understanding of the NSX, I encourage you to keep exploring. There's tons of info out there, reviews, videos. You could even talk to people who own NSXs and hear about their experiences.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be behind the wheel of an NSX yourself, feeling that acceleration, that precision, that incredible sound we've been talking about. It's a dream worth chasing.
And remember, that journey of discovery never really ends. There's always something new to learn, something new to experience. Stay curious, keep exploring, and keep pushing those boundaries.
And that's it for this deep dive into the world of the 2020 Honda NSX. We covered a lot, but hopefully you're leaving here feeling inspired, informed, and maybe a little obsessed with this amazing machine.
It's been great sharing this journey with you.
And to our listener, thanks for joining us. Keep that passion for incredible cars alive and stay curious. Until next time. You know, it's really incredible how much there is to this NSX. We've talked about the big picture stuff like the design and philosophy and even gotten into the details like the cockpit. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to what it's like to actually drive the thing.
Yeah, that's where the rubber meets the road, right? Reading about it is one thing, but actually getting behind the wheel and feeling it come to life. That's the real magic. You know, that connection between the car and the driver.
I could only imagine. The brochures does a pretty good job of describing it, but I bet actually experiencing it is on a whole other level. So let's say I'm driving this thing for the first time. What's that moment where I'm just like, wow?
Okay, so picture this. You've put it in Sport Plus mode, the engine's ready to go, and you hit the gas. The NSX just takes off with this smooth, incredible power. It's that V6 engine mixed with the instant torque from those electric motors. Everything outside starts to blur, and you just feel connected to everything. The acceleration pushing you back in the seat, the feedback from the steering wheel, even the sound of it all.
Wow, you're making me feel it just by describing it. But it's more than just speed, isn't it? It's about how the car makes you feel when you're driving it.
Exactly. It's that sense of being totally in control, knowing the car is going to respond to everything you do with precision and grace. It's like a dance between you and the road you're moving together.
I have to ask, did the brochure mention anything about what the NSX sounds like? Because I'm a sucker for engine sounds, especially in a supercar. And with a hybrid like this, I'm super curious what they did.
They didn't give specifics, but they did talk about how it's meant to stir the soul. You know, how it's this thrilling experience that goes beyond the mechanics. And I think it's safe to say that the sound is a huge part of that.
I bet it's totally unique. Like a blend of that classic V6 sound with a more futuristic electric hum. It's got to be like this symphony of sounds all tuned to go with the driving experience.
You're probably spot on. I'd imagine it's a subtle, almost futuristic kind of hum in quiet mode. Then in sport, it probably turns into this confident, throaty growl. And finally, when you really open it up in track mode, I bet it's a full-on roar, like an animal being unleashed.
You're killing me. I need to hear this. I'm going to have to go find some videos online, maybe some recordings from the track.
I definitely recommend it. Sometimes words just can't capture what it's like to experience a supercar like the NSX.
All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive, we've talked about everything from the philosophy behind it to the technology to the design. We even imagined what it's like to actually drive it. What's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from all of this?
I hope they get a sense of wonder and excitement. That the 2020 Honda NSX is more than just a car. It's like a statement. It shows what's possible when you bring together passion and innovation and this drive to create the perfect driving experience.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's a car that makes you dream of those open roads and all the possibilities.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening who's ever wanted something truly special, something that pushes the boundaries, the NSX is proof that it can be done.
And even though we've gone pretty deep on the NSX today, I encourage you to keep learning. There's a ton of information out there,
Mm.
reviews, videos. You could even connect with people who actually own one and hear about their experiences firsthand.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe someday you'll be the one behind the wheel of an NSX feeling that acceleration, that precision, and that amazing sound we've been talking about. It's a dream worth chasing.
And never forget that learning and discovery never really stops. There's always something new to learn, something new to experience. So stay curious, keep exploring, and never stop pushing those boundaries.
That's all for our deep dive into the incredible world of the 2020 Honda NSX. We covered a lot today, but hopefully we've left you feeling inspired and informed and maybe just a little obsessed with this amazing car.
It's been a pleasure talking about this with you.
And to our listener, thanks for coming along with us. Keep that passion for amazing cars alive and stay curious. We'll see you next time.